Hey, how's it going, everyone? Justin again, as always. Thanks for watching my channel. Welcome back. Cheers to those of you that have your holiday eggnog, huh? Because Christmas is right around the corner. So today we're going to be talking about the MATCO family tools, okay? Let's talk about some of the tools that MATCO has, some of the ones that I found to be my favorites, my least favorites, my most used, my least used, and then if I had to do it all over again, considering that some of these are rebranded, would I actually go with MATCO, or would I have rather saved some money? And if I was gonna save the money, which ones would I choose to go with for what particular reason? We're gonna discuss that in today's video. Let's go ahead and kick it off with my Jamestown service cart. I don't think I can say anything bad about this cart, to be honest. I've utilized it now consistently throughout the last 12 months, and it's been nothing shy of awesome. I absolutely love this cart. The drawers are set up perfect for me. Anything from organizing my wrenches in one particular drawer to screwdrivers, drivers, and pliers in another drawer, hammers, air tools, specialty tools, and then of course I have my snack drawer / combination wrench drawer, and even these organizers that came with the GearWrench 243-piece kit fit perfectly on the top as well as in the drawers themselves. Overall, I haven't had any problems with any of the slides. I haven't had any problems with the casters. It's easy to roll around. The drawers don't come flying open very easily. It's nice to be able to wheel it from one end of the shop and have that ease and comfortability to have the toolbox close by and close proximity to where it is that I'm working, so I can literally reach in, grab what I need to, use it, and then put it right back. As I told you guys before, if you're gonna cheap out on a toolbox, then do so for your 2-bay or 3-bay toolbox or your 56 or 73-inch toolbox, and don't do it with the cart. The cart, you're gonna be rolling around and beating up a lot. You're gonna want plenty of storage because you never know what you're gonna run into, but you would think most of the generic hand tools that you're gonna use in this industry, you're gonna wanna fit all in one station, so you're not having to walk all the way back to your main box and then back to the job. Now, if you work at a dealership, probably not going to be a contributing factor for you because most of us that work at the dealership, you're designated to 1, maybe 2 bays. Your toolbox pretty much stays stationary, and you don't really have a huge need for a service cart like this at the dealership. More times than not, that double bay or triple bay box is going to be all that you need, and maybe a Rubbermaid cart that you can just kind of toss underneath while you're doing your services, okay? Let's go ahead and talk about their pry bars. So I have a couple of variations of their pry bars. I have the indexing style pry bar where it articulates all the way back and all the way forward, and you can bend it at weird angles. I have 2 of them. I didn't buy all 4. I think they sell 4 variations as far as size-wise goes. But I love the comfort grip on this, especially during the winter months like we're in right now, right? Because your hand gets really cold really quick when you're grabbing bare metal. Much like the GearWrench ones, the indexing pry bar is going to be about the same between the GearWrench style and the MATCO style, for the exception of that comfort grip. I do like the comfort grip. I do not utilize these all the time. This is an intermittent use. I would go for my regular pry bars, the ones that have that natural little curve at the end. I go for those before I go for the indexing ones. But the indexing ones do have their time, they do have their place, they're just not wildly used on the regular, if that makes sense. One of the pry bars that I was actually surprised that's not only a favorite of mine, but a favorite of the shop is the one that has the straight shank. It's basically like an oversized flathead, and I do find myself using the striking cap portion on that way more often than the one with the slight curve style to the end of it, like you guys are used to seeing. So for that, I say, I wish I would have bought the full set instead of just the one. But that is a really good pry bar. I love the way that it strikes like a flathead. I'm not afraid to beat on it. That thing is tough and duty. And even when you're doing your ball joint inspection, you have it underneath the tire and you're raising it up and down, it's perfect. It's a perfect size for that. So if you get the vehicle off the ground just a little bit, it's perfect to slide under and pry, right? So I'm giving that 2 thumbs up. Okay, the 10-piece MATCO screwdriver set, I've had these for a handful of years now. If I had to guess, I'd say anywhere between 6 and 7 years I've had these screwdrivers. Maybe this particular set for 5, but I've been utilizing their screwdrivers for about 7 years. And I actually really do love these screwdrivers. They're very comfortable in my hand. They work out well. I think they have the best stubby screwdriver compared to all the other companies out there, even to include Snap-on. But again, my least favorite screwdriver out of that entire set is the #1 Phillips. It doesn't have any incorporated teeth like the Snap-on one does, and it tends to barrel out or round out a lot faster. And so you're gonna warranty that tip out quite a bit. So for that reason, that's why I ended up buying the #1 Phillips from Snap-on, because it has that capability that I'm looking for in a #1 Phillips. The Torx 2 Torx drivers. I don't find myself using them nearly as often as I used to. When I was at the dealership and I was doing a lot of interior work with blend door actuators and airbags and things like that, I use these hand drivers all the time. Being over at the independent shop, I find myself actually using the Torx sockets more so than I do the drivers. Every once in a while, the drivers do come in handy, especially for like headlights and taillights and things like that on the fly. But even still, I'd rather just throw the socket on the end of the gun and then use it, right? So for that, I'm saying these were not wildly used. I wish I would have gone a different route with these instead of buying them from MATCO and maybe save myself a few bucks. So this auto center punch, I just picked this up last week. And I picked it up because when you're getting ready to extract a bolt that's maybe broken off in the head or broken off on the front of the timing cover area, you're gonna wanna at least center punch that hole before you go and try to apply a pilot drill bit to it and then a bigger drill bit to eventually extract whatever broken fastener is broken off in the block. This is one of those things that you are gonna use, and it's not gonna be used every single day, but you're gonna be glad that you have it. So for that, I'm glad I was able to pick it up. I think I spent like 20 or 30 bucks on it, but he was here, I needed it, I grabbed it, perfect timing, right? Isn't it funny how sometimes you run into a circumstance where it's always perfect timing for stuff like this? Okay, these hose pinch off pliers from MATCO. I've got 2 at work, I've got 2 here at the house. Obviously, I like them so much, I had bought 4 in total. I like this style a lot better than the plastic style that has that adjustable clamp that comes down to help clamp down on it. I never felt like it had enough clamping force where this style does. I feel like you can open it up nice and wide, put whatever size hose you want in there, and then clamp down on it, and it really bites down so you're not losing fluid out of a hose, especially if you're working on like anything Toyota or even Subaru where it has coolant hoses that are going into that throttle body to help cool. Pinch those little guys off, pull it off, and then you can take the throttle body off, and then you can proceed to go about your business and pull the intake and do whatever else you're gonna do. But at least you're not losing a lot of coolant, and then you can pinch it off and save yourself the extra time and headache of just having the coolant dump all over the place and making a big old mess. Double box end flex head ratchet wrenches. I've had these for about 4 years now. I bought them from my MATCO rep because they had a 0-degree offset, they were flush, and they had that flexible end to them. So that way if I needed to get in at a different angle, I could, and I would have leverage on my side when I needed to really put leverage behind something. In the beginning, I did have a couple of binding issues with a gear on the 12 and 14 millimeter. Once I had that ratchet wrench warrantied out, I haven't had an issue since. So for that, I'm saying I utilize these things all the time. They've been nothing shy of awesome. In fact, I probably use them more than I do the other 0-degree offset Snap-on double box end wrenches that I picked up that I used to use all the time, but they were non-ratcheting. I think a good way to go here, if you wanted both, the best of both worlds, the GearWrench 120 XPs. I think Shane has a set of those. I think one end is flexible, the other end is not. So the end that you want to be fixed head looks like the Snap-on. The end that you want to be a flex head and a ratchet wrench looks like the MATCO 2-in-1. So that's probably the route that I would have gone because I don't utilize the Snap-on ones as much as I do these MATCO flex heads. Would have been kind of nice to have them both in one wrench. So if I had to do it all over again, I'd probably go GearWrench on this one. Okay, the MATCO 88 tooth teardrop design with the hourglass comfort grip handle locking flex head. I love this thing, okay? I love this ratchet. I did say that in last night's live stream. The only downside to MATCO ratchets, which Autobondan is somewhere out there laughing it up, is that occasionally, yes, occasionally, not all the time, I haven't had this experience all the time, but occasionally within a 6 to 10 month window, I need to have the gears changed out because they slip teeth, that breaks down. The gear mechanism is not as well built as you would hope it to be for how much you're spending on this ratchet. Comfortability, locking wise, I love this ratchet. Snap-on I think has a much better gear set. It holds up longer. I haven't had to have any of those gears warrantied out. The head is twice as thick as the MATCO. I do not care for the Snap-on locking flex head because that push button just never seems to stay where it needs to be when you want it locked, or if you want it unlocked, it always ends up locking when you don't want it to lock. So for that, I think that Snap-on probably has the worst design when it comes to the flex head locking mechanism, whereas MATCO I think comes out on top. There are other companies out there like TEKTON that have the detent style, which I actually said in last night's live stream that I do particularly favor over the 1/4 inch MATCO ratchet. Yes, I have a 1/4 inch that's really, really short, and that flex head flops all over the place. The locking mechanism does not stay in position like you want it to. It is probably the worst purchase that I've ever made as far as MATCO ratchets are concerned. I cannot say the same exact thing for their long reach locking 1/4 inch flex head. That thing has been nothing shy of awesome. I've had no issues with the locking capability. I haven't had any issues with the gearing of the teeth. The 1/4 inch little guy that I got, I've had problems with the locking mechanism. I've had problems with the teeth. So for that was probably the worst 1/4 inch ratchet that I had purchased from MATCO. Not saying every single one of them is going to be like that. I just had a bad experience with this particular MATCO product. The 3-jaw harmonic balance pulley puller and the harmonic balance installer tool I bought both from MATCO. I utilize these things so much in my working week with engine repairs, timing covers, cylinder heads, things like that I could not have gone a different way with this, to be honest. I have had certain components in these kits break down at least once per year that I've had to take to my MATCO rep for him to warranty out. So in that regards, I think if I would have gone a different direction, saying bought them on Amazon, if I was using them in the same exact manner I am now, it would get extremely frustrating to have to send it back through Amazon, wait for a replacement, or if I'm even going to get the replacement, maybe there's some kind of an issue with the seller, etc. So in this regards, I decided to go this route because I do utilize them so much. I am happy that I went this route now, knowing which pieces actually break down and how often they break down. Ergo, I think it was a good buy to buy these, even if they were a little bit extra added cost. Because I warranty these pieces out what I feel is frequently enough, I'm glad I went this route with those 2 items. The Click Style Flex Head Torque Wrench. I absolutely love this torque wrench for many, many years. Used it all 3 years over at the dealership. And then I think within a year and a half of being at the independent shop, I ended up buying the Snap-on digital tech angle, which I was not a fan of in the beginning or initially when I had first bought one. I didn't like it. I ended up selling it for like $100, right? Stupid me. I should have sold it for a lot more than that, but I just didn't like it that much. I wanted to be from out and underneath it and back into my click style, which I did like because I trusted the click style more at that time than I did this digital one. Now I will say that in most recent years, especially putting this Snap-on digital tech angle through the paces, that I have liked it for specific reasons. I like it because I can interchange from inch pounds to Newton meters. I can go over to degree angles, which I utilize all the time, and I don't have to put some weird degree angle adapter on the end of my click style torque wrench to make sure I'm doing 90 degrees. When I want 90 degrees, it'll do 90 degrees, and it goes up to 100 foot-pounds and all the way down to 5 foot-pounds. So for that, I'm actually glad that I have this one in particularly. So with that being said, I've utilized the Snap-on digital way more now than I ever have the click style MATCO. So the MATCO that I have, I may very well bring that home and just leave it here should I ever need it. I believe it goes from 15 foot-pounds up to 75 foot-pounds. So the torque range is also not as least or as much as the Snap-on 2. So for that, it is not wildly used anymore. It actually just kind of sits in the drawer in its little box. But does get me out of a pinch when the batteries die and I don't have replacement batteries for the Snap-on. So maybe that's a little mental note I should give myself, just to throw some extra batteries in the drawer. Extractor wrenches. You can clearly see that these extractor wrenches that I bought from MATCO have been collecting dust. I think I've utilized a couple different sizes, maybe 3 times. They are not used often enough for me to justify how much I spent on them. And I think one of you guys pointed out in the comments that you can actually buy this similar wrench set from Amazon for a lot cheaper. With how often I've used them and them not being an everyday combination wrench, specifically just for extracting and that's it, I think I would have rather gone a different route than spent the money that I spent on these extractor wrenches, because I just haven't used them all that much to justify the cost that I spent. So least utilized tool for sure. Master wheel stud installer and rethread kit. Yeah, for this I definitely should have gone a different direction. I should have looked for one on Amazon rather than actually buying this one from MATCO. With how many wheel studs that I had ran into that I was installing and having to rethread, I thought I would utilize this kit a lot more than I actually have. For whatever reason, and this happens sometimes to us in the mechanic field, I bought the tool only to never really run into it again for the last 2 or 3 years now of owning this kit. So where I was running into it all the time, I've gone a couple years now where I haven't seen it at all. So I don't know. It's a fluke thing. I thought I'd use it all the time, and if I needed to warranty it out, it would be there and I would end up running into it more times than not. It just collects dust. So I think I would have rather gone a different route with this. So least used tool for sure. Axle nut sockets, 10-year baby. I've had 10 years out of these bad boys. They are phenomenal. Now I did say a long time ago, and I still say the same exact thing, I think I could have gone a different route with this. I think it's MAXX now, but before that, I think Pittsburgh was selling the axle nut sockets. Look pretty damn similar, in the same exact blow molded kind of case, covers the same exact sizes. Could have saved a killing. At that point in time when I had bought these, it was one of the first MATCO tools that I had purchased on the tool truck. And for whatever reason, I decided to give the Pittsburgh axle nut sockets that I had over to my cousin because I was going MATCO, right? I was getting the professional branded stuff. Hey, guess what? He's still utilizing my old Pittsburgh axle nut sockets to this day, and I'm still utilizing the same MATCO set. So both tools phenomenal, but I think I could have saved myself some money and just have kept the Pittsburgh set, especially considering how long they've held up. So in this instance, yeah, I should have just stayed the direction that I was going when it came to that tool instead of wasting the money for the MATCO ones. Now the fuel pressure test gauge set, when I bought this test gauge set, it was expensive. I want to say it was around $500 or $600. I literally looked everywhere. I looked on Amazon, I went to O'Reilly's, I looked on eBay to find some kind of kit that would closely resemble all the adapters that I needed for a particular car. I went to Harbor Freight. I did not like the style of any of the fuel kits out there for the exception of this one specifically. And we use it all the time. If I'm not using it, somebody else is using it. I've had the gauge break down on me twice. I had a hose rupture once. These were all warrantied out through MATCO, and I didn't have to worry about paying the extra added cost. But it was used so much that these little things happen. I am definitely glad that I went this route because this was a good buy, in my opinion. The Power Steering Pulley Installer Kit. Oh my God, I love this kit from MATCO. Love it, love it, love it. But every 6 to 12 months, I have to warranty out 1 or 2 pieces because I utilize it so much. It definitely beats the Harbor Freight kit all day long. And we did a video about that a while back. Night and day difference. Okay, this kit's gonna last you. But yes, if you're using it as often as I am, like as a heavy line mechanic, every 6 to 12 months, you're gonna have to either change out the threads or the internal bearing mechanism, or maybe a couple of the little adapters that screw into the pump itself. At some point, you're gonna have to warranty those out. But for this, because I utilize it so much, and I do have to run into situations where I have to warranty it out, it justifies the cost, and I'm happy I went that route. 18-piece bushing driver kit. Yeah, I should have gone a different direction with this. I'm not really sure what I was thinking. I thought it was a really well put together kit. I was excited to get it because I was doing a lot of clutch jobs. I bought the kit. I was still utilizing it pretty often for like, I think 6 months to install pilot bearings on the back of the flywheels when I was doing these clutch jobs. And then all of a sudden the clutch jobs just kind of dwindled down and went away, and then more and more cylinder head and engine jobs came in. It's a timing thing. It's a timing thing for sure. But I don't utilize it as much as you would think to justify the cost of spending. I wish I would have gone a different direction with this, maybe found something a little bit cheaper on Amazon, especially considering it's a bushing driver kit, right? The Seal and Race driver kit, not to get off topic, from Blue Point is no better than the one that Shane has made by US General. It's the same damn thing, but he saved a hell of a lot more money on it. So this is kind of one of those tools. I should have learned my lesson from that and went a different route, but I didn't, and I ended up going with the MATCO one, and here we are, and it doesn't get used a lot. Transmission oil cooler disconnect set for Ford. Now, I was doing a lot of 6 liters for a long time, so I was having to disconnect these Ford lines all the time. Lucky for me, that's kind of slowed down a little bit, which is not necessarily a bad thing for your boy, okay? Because you get burnt out pretty quick doing the same thing over and over and over and over. But I bought these to help disconnect those transmission lines, and as a result, they're still in their package. As well as my O2 sensor rethread tool. So this thing, yes, you are going to run into situations where you are going to have to rethread the sensor socket hole on the downpipe or just below the cat, okay? You are going to run into situations where you have to do that, but I haven't had to use it yet. That's not always a bad thing, right? No one wants to have to run into a situation where you have to use rethreaders or any kind of tap and die, okay? That's a bad day if that happens. Speaking of rethreaders, the Metric SAE rethread kit. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It is remade by somebody else. I think Lang probably makes it or something like that. Possibly Irwin as well. But this kit I could have definitely gotten for cheaper from elsewhere. But I'm glad I went the MATCO route with this, just because I've utilized them so much over the years that if they ever broke down, I could get it warrantied out and changed out. Now here's the thing. I also could have gone the cheaper route and bought it from the actual company that makes it, because these things just have not worn out. I haven't broken one, I haven't worn one out, and I've utilized them a lot over the last 6 years or so of owning this rethread kit. They have been absolutely phenomenal, and I just haven't had any issues. I would have thought for sure, with as often as I was using it, this was the better way to go. And this is why I decided to spend the money this way instead of actually buying it online, because I was assuming that they like tap and dies occasionally, like some of the extractors, they might break and they might get worn out and I might need to change them out. But they just keep on working. So I don't know. On this one, I still feel like it's a toss-up. I don't feel like you're going to be losing any sleep over this purchase. It's going to be a kit that you're going to utilize, and if anything does happen, you can get it changed out relatively quickly. But again, it's a very long-lasting tool and haven't had to change any out. So I don't know. You can go either direction with this one. Okay, the MATCO rebranded Easy Red headlamps. Love-hate relationship, okay? In the beginning, love them, right? They were nice, tight fit. I could see everything night and day. Tommy bought them, he loves them too. But then after about 2 weeks to 3 weeks of utilizing them all the time, when it gets warm out, they tend to stretch and they become flimsy and they flop all over the place. And then having my hat helps me out because it keeps that wide bandwidth and pinches against my hat, which tends to hold up. But even once in a while, if I bump into something, they'll slip and fall. Tommy found a trick. If you grab them and you kind of twist them together like so, and you bring them back, they fit tight again. This is one of those little tricks that Tommy figured out because he utilizes them so often. Okay, the valve stem puller for tires and rethread kit. Not a widely used tool. I probably put it in the least used tool list. Really happy that I went this direction because I did not know that they actually sold rethreaders. Never ran into a situation doing tires where I needed to rethread a valve stem. Usually you just replace them. But the thing that I found to be most useful about these is that it's the same exact thread pitch as the Schrader valves for AC lines. So if you needed to clean up a cross-threaded hole on an AC line, you could re-tap the hole utilizing these rethreaders. So that's why I got them. The valve stems, I haven't had to use the valve stem puller since I was over at the dealership because we just don't do tires anymore. But you can clearly see that that is the most used one out of the 3-piece kit. I'm really happy that I went this direction even though I don't use the valve stem removal tool anymore. The rethread ones do come in handy from time to time. I think I've used them about 3 times for that exact situation I'm telling you guys about. Okay, the tap sockets. Another love-hate, okay? Because I bought the entire set thinking that I was gonna run into different sizes and I was gonna utilize a good majority of this whole entire set, but I actually don't. I'd have to go back and see which one specifically worked, but I can tell you of the MATCO tap and die kit that I have, again, rebranded Irwin, and we'll go into that a little bit later. I forgot to take a picture of it. But at any rate, out of that whole entire set, I think I only ever used 2 out of them that fit on the taps. So the other ones are just kind of there in case I get oversized taps or undersized taps at some point in time. would have really have hoped that for the helicoil kit that those taps would fit into one of these sockets, but they didn't, and I was bummed out. I really thought that that was what the whole purchase point of this set would be, was that I could use a helicoil tap and put it in there, but it doesn't work like that. So when you go to rethread it in, you can't. Okay, I didn't take a picture of it, but I do have this ginormous 200 and something piece set MATCO tap and die kit. Most definitely could have gone a different direction. Again, bought it for the same exact reasons I did the rethread kit, thinking that I was gonna break them or they would wear out and I would need to get them warrantied out. So you can take it either way, because throughout the last 7 years of owning this rethread kit, I haven't had to have one warrantied out. So for that, you can go either way. You could save some money, go with Irwin, it's gonna last you a long time. You can go with MATCO and fear that in case you're using them so often that they might break, you can get them warrantied out very easily. I think you can go either way with this. Precision screwdrivers, okay, these things do come in handy, but I'm not the one utilizing them all the time. Actually, my shop manager is. He does a lot of stuff around with his computers, scan tools, things like that. He's always taking apart key fobs and whatnot, replacing batteries. So for this, he utilizes them all the time. That's why the handles are so clean, because he never really has to get greasy. Whereas your boy, that gets greasy as heck, you can clearly tell which tools I utilize all the time. But these ones are more for like smaller things, more precision-like things. And since he doesn't get dirty, the tools stay really clean and they last. I mean, they're really great to have when you need them. You know what I mean? Not wildly used though. Least used tool list for sure. The 5-ton bearing splitter. Okay, I don't utilize it all the time, but the shop utilizes it all the time. I think I've utilized it 2 or 3 times, and everybody else has probably used it a couple dozen times just within the last like month or 2. So for this, well worthwhile tool. Even though I don't use it very often, I'd have to put it in my own category as the least. I'd say the shop uses it the most. So right there in the middle. And with this kind of toolkit, yes, I did decide to go the MATCO route because I wanted it to be made of good quality, and if anything happened, again, I'd like to have it exchanged out without having to worry about shipping this, that, and the other. A Honda crank tool. This I do use pretty infrequently throughout the year, so can fit right in the middle between least most, because I don't utilize it every single month, but I do utilize it at least 6 to 8 times per year when these Hondas do come in that require this special tool to remove the harmonic balance bolt. So great tool, glad I went this route. Could have saved some money. Think I could have bought it from OTC on Amazon, saved a few bucks. For this, I would say, I think I would have liked to have saved a little bit of money and gone the Amazon route, because it's a specialty tool, because I'm not gonna use it very often, because I feel like if I would have bought it from OTC, that would have lasted just as long as this one has. So for that, I could have saved money. Definitely gotta put it towards the least used, but still used frequently enough to where I thought I could justify the cost. Okay, inner, outer, and deep extractors from MATCO. I have a shallow set made by Irwin. I do have the shallow sets made by Irwin. I have the deeps made by MATCO because I could not find at that time any deeps made by Irwin. And I do have the internal ones by MATCO, which I found later that Irwin does make. But I have had a few pieces in that internal extractor, that hex extractor, break on me, to where I was glad that I bought them from MATCO because I can get those warrantied out. I have had the deep extractor sockets split, and I have had to warranty those out. These shallow ones, because they're so shallow, they're not so stupid thin to where you could break them. I'm glad I went with Irwin. I think I bought these at O'Reilly's. They work great for extracting oil drain plugs, and I haven't had not one break on me. All right, the 1/2-inch super long MATCO breaker bar locking flex head style ratchet. I've loved having this thing. Absolutely have loved having this thing. It does come in handy when things are stubborn. I can pull behind on it. I haven't had the tooth slip at all on it. Love the comfort grip. I utilize it more than I do my snap-on. You guys know I had some problems with the locking mechanism on the snap-on with the button falling off, having to put blue Loctite to run it back in and hold it for a few more months before it worked its way back off again. For this, I am super glad that I went this route with MATCO, because that locking flex head is definitely important to me, especially when I'm breaking head bolts and things like that loose. So for this, yeah, Widely used in my day-to-day, love that thing. Okay, let's talk about this MATCO Infinium cordless lineup that I have. I have two tools. I have the 3/8 impact and the 16 volt platform, as well as the 1/4 inch ratchet. The batteries. The battery life is pretty sufficient in my opinion. I charge them about as often as I did the Milwaukee when I had the Milwaukee 3/8 stubby impact in the fuel, and I had the 3/8 cordless ratchet in the fuel. You guys know that I gave the 3/8 stubby to Princess Jamie, and I gave the 3/8 drive fuel ratchet to my boss as a going away present, and the 1/2 inch impact that I had through Milwaukee I gave to James from Midwest Tool Reviews. I'll put their channel links down in the description for you. But as far as the Infinium lineup, I will say that the 3/8 16 volt is a little bit underpowered as far as the impact is concerned compared to what I felt with the Milwaukee. I will tell you that the battery tends to stay in its slot a heck of a lot better, and I haven't had any problems with the batteries breaking on me like I did with the Milwaukee. Milwaukee, if you're watching, fix the battery issue. It's the clips. The clips suck. Okay. But the charge time overall is about the same, okay? I intermingle the batteries between both tools throughout the day. I utilize the 1/4 inch ratchet a lot. This thing sounds like a Banshee, right? Like a 2-stroke just flying down the road. This thing is fast. The RPMs are freaking killer amazing. The breakaway torque is surprisingly amazing from what you'd expect out of a 1/4 inch ratchet. It gets into tight spots. I really have nothing bad to say about the 1/4 inch ratchet. I have plenty of bad things to say about the Infinium 3/8 drive long reach. I have no opinion about their 3/8 standard length. Maybe those of you that have it can let me know down in the comments if you've had any head issues as far as gearing. And yes, I've heard your pleas for grease the head. If you just bought it and it breaks within a week or a month, because you didn't grease it every single day, there's a problem there. Because I had the Milwaukee for years and I never greased it. In fact, the only grease it saw was the oil flying off the component that I was taking apart. So in that regards, if the Milwaukee fuel can go for 3 years of ownership and never be greased, I don't feel like I should have to grease the head on a brand new purchase as far as MATCO cordless goes. That's just my thoughts and opinions. I'm putting the snap-on brute through the same exact paces. I was told there's a way to grease this head too. I'm not going to. I want to know how long can I go under practical, everyday use before I have an issue with the head. Because then I can give you time, longevity, use the way that I would normally use it. I mean, I don't bust out my air tool and take it apart and grease it every single day, and they still work. So I would expect the same exact thing from my cordless. I don't take the heads apart of my ratchets, my handheld ratchets, to re-grease them, though a lot of guys do. They still work. So I just want to know how long it's going to be before I have to do that with the snap-on, or if it's going to be like the Milwaukee and get me a few years of running and never greasing and still holding up. That's what I want to know. But the Infinium tools that I do have, outside of the 3/8 impact being a little underpowered, the 1/4 inch cordless is probably my favorite because it is the fastest one on the market in my opinion. The panel removal tools, or the panel popper tools. I utilize 2 out of the 4-piece set. Haven't found a reason to use the giant hook one. Don't really find too many situations where I need the oversized panel popper, but the little tiny fork and the super long one, I utilize those a lot, okay? Those things do come in handy. I have loved having them. Could I have gone a different direction here? Absolutely. I'm not sure what companies you guys would recommend if someone didn't want to spend MATCO money for panel poppers. I do have one OEM one. I didn't see a kit from OEM. I don't know if TEKTON or TEKTON sells a panel popper kit. I think GearWrench does, but I haven't tried them and I don't know how long they would hold up over time. I'd be curious to know from you guys down in the description of what you think about the GearWrench ones. And if Mayhew sells one, again, throw those comments down below and let us know as well. But as far as the MATCO panel poppers, I've been very happy with those and I utilize them a lot. Definitely goes in my most used tool list for sure. Okay guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. Thanks as always for watching. If you liked today's content, smash a thumbs up. If you didn't, smash a thumbs down. Share if you wanna share. Let us know what you think about MATCO tools. What is your most favorite, least favorite, most used, least used tools? And if you had to do it all over again, Would you buy the same exact products that you bought and why? Or would you have gone a different direction and why? We'd like to know. Thanks as always for your feedback. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts and experience. Cheers and deuces.